Well, so this is just a slide that's talking about John Harvey Kellogg, which is one of the Kellogg brothers. They were Seventh-day Adventist, and they were really, it's interesting actually if you think about it, because they were very much involved, their faith practice in like nutrition. So it was like vegetarian, early soy, cornflakes. They had, I don't know, sort of bathing rituals like cold baths and all sorts of, they would have these spas, which were up in Michigan and Battle Creek, Michigan. That's right, because we were kind of conditioned to that. I don't know about you, like there used to be ads for the cereal companies like in the 70s. I always remember like, send your post box tops to Battle Creek, Michigan. Like there was something like you collected box tops.
I totally just debate on those things. I'd fill it out. You'd be sitting there eating your cereal, reading the box. I want to join that club.
Send your things to Battle Creek, Michigan.
Trinket that they're going to mail me for sending it in. And
right.
Them.
I know. We had no idea what it was, Lynn. So yeah.
There's a database of cereal eaters out there for sure.
Right. We ate too much cereal. So when I was doing all of my research around the Human Betterment Foundation, which was the West Coast version of like the Cold Spring Harbor Eugenics Records Office, that the Kellogg family was very much embedded in that, and this idea of optimization, which, I'm just saying, like, I'm not, the thing about eugenics and that it does have a racial component, but I think more than that, it's also searching for genius, pushing for optimization. Now, of course, at the time they had genius attached to like certain people of certain races, that sort of thing. But there is this thing of, it's not just this idea of eugenics is killing people that are less than, but which did get co-opted from the Cold Spring Harbor lab research by the Nazis and used during the Holocaust. So that definitely did happen. But a lot of it was this optimization metric, which I think very much fits into the OER and these health protocols, and really, like, honestly, a lot of the biohacking stuff that goes along with the alt health things. And that's going to bite people in the butt, because there's a lot of co-optation that's going on in the biohacking space that's going to feed into another track towards, human plus stuff. But I think not just the body, but also the mental state. And as I mentioned in the last session, that I think that there is something about like a synthetic telepathy or a psychic or an extrasensory perception, or expanding our senses through frequency beyond what we normally understand as normal through this. And I think that this is a thread that's been running through since the early 20th century with these folks, is tapping into genius, people who have unusual capacities that are outside the normal frame, and then trying to reverse engineer that.
Wow. So Kellogg, being a eugenicist, but also has a company for cereal, is working behind the scenes with all of these eugenics, with the eugenics work.
Yeah.
But then fast forward decades later, you have the Kellogg Foundation then using a black man, Jerry Hawkins is a black man, to using Kellogg Foundation money to then create this whole Dallas Truth and Racial Healing thing. I find that so fascinating that you can see this, where it's leading, but
if you think about it, so this is one of the other aspects. Remember, like where was it? The guy Satya Nidda with Merlin Mind. He's talking about technologies with a focus on keeping Moore's law scaling, and I think that keeping Moore's law scaling relates to a melding of human and machine, and a tapping into some of our creative psychical ability, which is, and within that, this is something I was,
but also tapping into civil unrest and civil and segregation issues, which I that's the part that it's as if, so they can take the segregation and the redlining and the sins of the past, and then in the future use it as a means to access a whole other you can really tap into those emotions, because it's painful.
Right.
What happened to these marginalized communities, who then will work to their own detriment. They're being manipulated. That Jerry's being manipulated for a cause that's not not what he thinks it is. Keep going. Sorry.
Well, no, but I would just say the other piece of this, which seems critical to the computation, is that, the other guy was working in MEMS, like micro electromechanical machines, and then they have NEMS, which are nano electromechanical machines, MEMS and NEMS, and that's the nanobots, right? That we've talked about. Jose Ferreira, talking about, education is the most data mineable till we got nanobots, and then maybe health data will be outperform education data, but some of those NEMS are actually made out of melanin. Now they're developing it synthetically, but melanin is actually a really complex optical material. And so the future of computing is light based and optical based. And so they're using melanin based nanoparticles to create things for imaging, medical delivery. It's very conductive. And so
you're saying darker skin would be more desirable for...
I think that it's, and this is somewhat speculative, but I think that the way in which people access light and process light through their body, and this isn't just people with darker skin, but also animals. Melanin is in fur and in feathers and in other materials. Like, it's because they're photonic materials of how you interface with light, that there may be something also that is extended into like the pineal gland, because there's also melatonin in the pineal gland. So there may be certain populations may be identified as particularly useful for this new kind of computation if their biological infrastructure will allow this light-based computing, right? Like if a group that was identified as less than in some other era that now is identified as having interesting opportunities at a nanoscale, is they have new information scientifically for these new kinds of, light-based sorcery or whatever they've got going on, then you would want to contain those people on a universal basic income, on a blockchain in the name of racial healing, right? So that you could offer the solution that would actually embed them into a digital frequency network that would allow you to tap into some of that capacity. So as a unit of the ant computer, people who have higher melanin content may be offering something exceptional into this computational system. Wow. And I,
well said, Allison.
I don't know how else to say it, but like they create.
That was one sentence too.
Sorry.
And grammatically correct.
But that's how it feels to me. Now someone could prove me wrong, but that's what it's looking like.
I hear you. I hope everyone else can hear you.
It's complicated. It's a hard conversation to have because, again, we're not discounting that harms happen. But sometimes I wonder about the simulation. Like in simulations, they can speed time up or slow time down. And I'm like, is the thing that we're existing in a construct, which, again, the IEEE people think we're already in a simulation? Is there a construct such that there's someone outside of it who could speed time up or down? And if so, then the harms of redlining and segregation and civil rights from 60, 70 years ago might just be a click, and then we're jumped into it. So this idea of like they couldn't have planned it out that far. What is the story that this could be so coordinated? But I don't know. If there's some way of getting outside of the experience and speeding time up, you could create a framework of steering people. And even more so once you get everyone on OER and get the AI embedded in their mind and you've got their personal assistant whispering in their ear what to do next, you could just program it and let the simulation model run, towards a certain outcome.